Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about something that's happening all across the Western world, so we know it's centrally scripted and globalist controlled. Whenever you see this, by the way, always keep your eyes up. Whenever you see an unusual sort of legal development, an unusual situation where somebody is sent to prison for waving a placard in the main street, but someone else can commit multiple murders, but they get immediate probation. You see those sorts of things. Look for those similar situations all around the Western world, and you'll probably see the same sort of thing occurring in Britain and Canada, or Australia, and elsewhere around the Western world. And then you'll know that it's a globalist scripted thing, and so much of what you will see today is globalist scripted, centrally scripted, and every Western country is doing more or less the same thing. But the particular issue that sort of drew my attention just in the last day or so was looking at the people who have been, or some of the people who've been sentenced in the as a result of the protest in Washington DC in January this year. Now the globalists or their flunkies have been running around saying it's an insurrection, it's this, it's that, which of course we know is utter and total nonsense. But that's what they've been putting. The Black Lives Matter riots, the people storming the Senate building during the Brett Kavanaugh. No, nothing wrong with that. That's fine. That's just people with exercising their constitutional right. But if you want to question the election, then suddenly you're a criminal and you have to be thrown in the slammer. Now the interesting thing here is that we know that the rule of law has been abandoned because these people have been arrested and detained. Effectively, the writ of habeas corpus has been suspended. They've been kept in prison for a long time and finally brought to court on some very flimsy, extremely flimsy charges that you wouldn't think would even make it into court. And if it even got into court, it would be thrown out in just a few moments, or any independent, impartial judge certainly would, or I believe so at least. However, what's interesting here is how successful the globalist or pro-globalist deep state sort of faction has been in getting to district attorneys. So they own the district attorneys. So, go and get these people, put charges against that guy, do this, say that, create these charges, accuse them of this. It's that level of control that the globalists have got here, and that's scary in itself. Then we get into court. And also the globalists have an incredible ability, and this is all across the Western world, by the way, not just the United States or not just Washington, but they've got an incredible ability to assign an activist, pro-globalist, pro-deep state judge to hear cases, particularly cases that have any sort of political sensitivity around them, such as the protests in January this year. And so people who are no threat to anybody, they were there, and that's probably the sole crime. They just happened to be in Washington that day, or somewhere near the building, or something like that. But purely because they're Trump voters, or not supportive enough of the globalist project, that they're being thrown in prison on what I mean. You used to see these show trials in the Soviet Union or some sort of totalitarian, tyrannical regime. You never would see it, or so incredibly rarely would see it in a Western rule of law, due legal process society. But those days are gone. The rule of law and due legal process, the rules of evidence, independent judges, independent courts, those days are gone. They don't exist anymore, not in the West. The globalists have swept it away because that's what they need if they're going to push the globalist project on us. So these people have been dragged, in Washington, have been dragged into the court, and somehow the globalists have managed to assign activist judges, not just ones that maybe are mildly sort of in favour of the globalist position, or don't really like Trump or anything like that, but we're talking rabid rabid ideological activists who are prepared to just casually put people in prison for no crime. Now, it's not that easy to get an activist judge or a judge you want assigned to a case, because the way it works is the next available judge hears the next available case. So it's just like a production line. As soon as a judge has finished one case, they've got no case to hear, then they just go to the next one on the line and they take. But that's not happening. That's not happening. What I'm seeing certainly is that activist judges are being assigned to these sensitive cases. So we have incredible situations where people that lead protests that are in effect against globalization. That's really the essence of it. They're protesting globalization. They've got an alternative opinion to the pro-globalization view that we're supposed to have now, and that's their crime. That's their only crime. They're not guilty of anything. So they're being thrown in prison as political prisoners, let's call it what it is, and getting activist judges to do it. Now that's the reverse is the case. People get arrested, say, for doing climate change protests, and they've caused a lot of disruption. They've destroyed property. They should be imprisoned and fined and so on. And yet somehow activist judges, very pro-climate change judges, are being assigned to hear the case. Now, how would you do that? And that's done reliably, very reliably, time and time again. They get an activist judge. In some cases, the judges are even congratulating the criminal on their strong stand against climate change, and they're fighting back against the system. I mean, if you own the politicians and the judges and the media, you are the system. That's how it is. So these people are getting, and we're looking at situations. There's one guy I'm thinking of now. I think he's been arrested 12 times, and every time in any court he goes into, and this is all over the place, he gets an activist judge that lets him off. He gets a $20 fine. He still hasn't had convictions recorded. So each time he's getting a free pass, little slap on the wrist, $20 fine or $50. Maybe he's got to pay $50 court costs. And then he walks free. And a week or so later, he's arrested again. But he's fearless. He knows the system is backing him. He knows that the courts won't put him in prison or give him a decent fine. Now, you look at someone who goes to a protest, counter protest to climate change, and they're treated very differently. They will get a $2,000 fine. They will get a criminal conviction recorded, and so on. So it's completely different for them. So how are these activist judges being assigned? So it has to be an agreed arrangement where they're saying, okay, well, we can't have Judge Smith hear this case because he believes he'll put these climate change protesters in prison, so we'll fine them or something like that. So we can't have him hear it. So let's get Judge Bergstein to hear it, and we know that he'll let these protesters off, and he'll ignore all the damage they've done and the disruption they've caused. And the reverse is also the case, that if we've got this person was protesting in the Capitol in January, have they damaged anything? No. Have they assaulted anybody? No. Well, what can we get them on? Oh, I don't know, trespass. Think of something, make something up. Who cares? Just put them in prison. Let's scare the crap out of the rest of the population. So, well, let's say that they're, I know. Let's say that they're a white supremacist Nazi. Then they don't have any legal rights. They don't deserve legal rights. Then we can put them in prison. Hey, baby, you've got it. Go do it. Who can we get to do that? Well, we've got, what about Shaniqua? She'll do it. Or Bergstein will put them in prison. You be reliable on that. So they're able to get these activists and match them up to the cases. Now, that means you need all the apparatus of the court, and you need the district attorney. You need a lot of people on side to do that. As many people as you'd need on side to, say, rig an election or something like that. But here you've got a lot of people on side to do this. So they've either got to be in full agreement or they're under some sort of threat and they're too terrified to push back against it. But that's, make no mistake, that is happening all over the Western world. A politically sensitive case, people against globalisation are going to prison, or against the things that are, the climate change thing is part of the globalisation program. So if you're against climate change protests, then you're against globalisation. If you're for climate change protests, then you're a supporter of globalisation. And that's really the only decider now as to whether you're going to get some sort of penalty or imprisonment or a fine, or if you're going to get let off free with some bullshit $20 fine. But make no mistake, this is happening all across the Western world, and it's a stark illustration of the power that the globalists have. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.